Something happened this week that should shake you to your core. The FBI finally arrested the January 6th pipe bomber after 4 years of nothing, and now, suddenly, they have their man. But here's what they're not telling you about Brian Cole Jr. Here's what makes this arrest so disturbing, so revealing about the failures of our justice system, that it will change how you see everything. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to reveal will make you question everything you thought you knew about January 6th, about the FBI, and about how justice really works in America. The story they want you to believe is simple. 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. from Northern Virginia planted pipe bombs at the DNC and RNC headquarters. Case closed. Justice served. But the real story will terrify you. Because this wasn't solved by brilliant detective work. This was solved by accident, by a new FBI director finally looking at evidence that had been sitting there for 4 years, evidence that the previous administration chose to ignore. I sat down with FBI Director Kash Patel this week. What he told me will make your blood run cold, not because of what they found, but because of what they didn't look for 4 long years. Let me paint you a picture. Brian Cole Jr. starts buying bomb-making materials in October 2019. October 2019, months before COVID, months before George Floyd, more than a year before the 2020 election. This wasn't some spontaneous reaction to election results. This was planned, methodical, long-term. And yet, when his family describes him, they paint a different picture entirely. His grandmother says he couldn't hurt a fly. His family thinks he might be on the autism spectrum. A quiet, socially isolated young man who worked at his father's bail bonds company. So which is it? The methodical terrorist who spent over a year collecting bomb materials, or the harmless, possibly autistic man who his family says wouldn't harm anyone? Director Patel walked me through exactly how they caught him. Cell phone data, credit card records, security footage from Home Depot stores across the region. The evidence was all there. Every purchase, every location, every timestamp. Cole bought pipes in one store, end caps in another, timers and batteries from a third location. Sometimes he paid cash to hide his tracks. Sometimes he used his own credit card. Amateur hour mixed with careful planning. But here's what will make you sick to your stomach. All of this evidence existed in 2021. The cell phone tower data, the credit card transactions, the security footage, 3 million lines of data just sitting there, waiting for someone to connect the dots. Christopher Wray's FBI had all of this. They chose not to pursue it. When Director Patel took over, his team didn't perform magic. They didn't crack some impossible code. They simply did what should have been done 4 years ago. They looked at the evidence. Either it was incompetence or it was intentional, Patel told me. Those are his words, not mine. Either the previous FBI leadership was too incompetent to solve a case with overwhelming evidence, or they chose not to solve it for political reasons. Think about that for a moment. We're talking about pipe bombs placed at the headquarters of both major political parties. Devices that could have killed members of Congress, their staff, innocent civilians. And the FBI under Christopher Wray couldn't be bothered to follow obvious leads. The timeline alone should horrify you. Cole starts his shopping spree in October 2019. He continues buying materials through the entire year of 2020, through the pandemic, through the summer of riots, through the election, right up until January 2021. This wasn't some guy who got mad about election results and decided to build bombs. This was someone with a long-term plan that just happened to culminate on January 6th. But wait, it gets worse. When they arrested Cole this week, they found fresh bomb-making materials in his home. Fresh materials, meaning he was potentially planning another attack. 4 years after January 6th, this man was still stockpiling explosives. How many attacks could have been prevented if Christopher Wray's FBI had simply done their job in 2021? The bomb squad spent hours clearing Cole's house. They were worried about booby traps. This wasn't some confused, harmless man. This was someone dangerous enough that trained professionals feared for their safety entering his home. And yet, his family insists he's harmless. They describe him as socially awkward, possibly autistic, someone who couldn't hurt a fly. Either his family is in complete denial or something else is going on here. Former FBI profiler James Fitzgerald gave me his assessment. Cole fits the profile of what they call a lone wolf. Socially isolated, poor interpersonal skills, someone who might gamify violence, who might see terrorism as a way to prove himself or create excitement in an otherwise mundane life. But here's the question that should keep you awake at night. If this was a lone wolf attack, if this was just one disturbed individual, why did the FBI under Christopher Wray treat it like it wasn't worth investigating? The pipe bombs didn't explode. They were designed with simple kitchen timers set for 1 hour. Either Cole was too incompetent to build working bombs, or he never intended them to actually kill anyone. Maybe he just wanted to create chaos. Maybe he wanted attention. Maybe he wanted to feel important. Or maybe there's something else we don't know yet. Cole has reportedly confessed. He's admitted to planting the bombs. He's told investigators he believed conspiracy theories about the 2020 election. Case closed, right? Not so fast. Director Patel's team is still digging through Cole's digital footprint, his social media accounts, his emails, his online activity. They want to know how he learned to make bombs. They want to know if anyone else was involved. They want to know if this connects to anything larger. And they're finding things. Things that the previous FBI administration apparently wasn't interested in finding. Remember, this is the same FBI that spent years investigating parents at school board meetings as potential domestic terrorists. The same FBI that raided Catholic churches looking for extremists. The same FBI that treated January 6th selfie takers like they were international war criminals. But when it came to actual pipe bombs planted at political headquarters, suddenly they couldn't be bothered to follow obvious leads. The contrast is staggering. They had unlimited resources to investigate anyone who questioned the 2020 election, but they couldn't solve a case where the suspect literally left a paper trail of bomb-making purchases. Director Patel made something else clear to me. This isn't political. This is about competence versus incompetence, about doing your job versus playing politics. His team has made record numbers of arrests for espionage, child exploitation, and gang activity. They're focused on actual crimes, not political persecution. But the damage from 4 years of neglect is real. How many other cases were ignored? How many other threats were dismissed? How many other dangerous individuals are still out there because the previous FBI leadership was too busy chasing political enemies to catch actual criminals? Cole's arrest raises more questions than it answers. If he really is just a lone wolf, if he really is just a disturbed individual who got caught up in conspiracy theories, then why wasn't he caught years ago? If he's more dangerous than that, if he's connected to something bigger, then what else did the previous FBI miss? The fact that they found fresh bomb-making materials in his house is particularly troubling. This suggests he wasn't done. This suggests that whatever motivated him in 2021 was still motivating him in 2024. And if Kash Patel's team hadn't taken over the FBI, would Brian Cole Jr. still be out there planning his next attack? The previous FBI administration had one job: protect Americans from terrorism. They failed, spectacularly, and their failure could have cost lives. But there's something else that bothers me about this case. Cole's family describes him as harmless, possibly autistic, socially awkward. If that's true, then how did he become radicalized? Who influenced him? What online communities was he part of? Who taught him to make bombs? These are the questions Director Patel's team is asking now, questions that should have been asked 4 years ago. The digital investigation is ongoing. They're examining Cole's online activity going back years. They want to understand his path to radicalization. They want to know if he was working alone or if he was part of a larger network. And here's what should terrify you. If there is a larger network, if there are other Brian Cole Jr.'s out there, then Christopher Wray's FBI gave them 4 years to plan, to prepare, to recruit others. The incompetence is staggering. The potential consequences are horrifying. But I want to be clear about something else. This isn't just about FBI leadership. This is about priorities, about what our justice system chooses to focus on versus what it chooses to ignore. They had unlimited resources to investigate anyone who questioned the 2020 election, but they couldn't solve a case with overwhelming evidence. They had time to spy on parents at school board meetings, but they couldn't follow up on pipe bomb leads. This is what happens when law enforcement becomes politicized. Real criminals slip through the cracks while political targets get harassed. Director Patel is changing that culture. He's refocusing the FBI on actual crimes committed by actual criminals, and the results speak for themselves. Record arrests, real cases, real justice. But the damage from 4 years of political persecution and incompetence is real. How many other cases like this are still unsolved? How many other threats are still out there? Brian Cole Jr. may have confessed, but this case is far from over. The investigation into his digital footprint is just beginning. The search for potential co-conspirators continues. The examination of his path to radicalization is ongoing. And every day that investigation continues is another reminder of how badly the previous FBI administration failed the American people. So here's my question for you. If they failed this badly on something this obvious, what else did they miss? What other threats are still out there? What other evidence is sitting in some file cabinet waiting for someone competent to finally look at it? The arrest of Brian Cole Jr. isn't just about catching one terrorist. It's about exposing 4 years of institutional failure. It's about showing what happens when law enforcement prioritizes politics over public safety. And it's a warning, because if there are other Brian Cole Jr.'s out there, we may be running out of time to stop them. The pipe bomber is caught. Justice is finally being served. But the questions this case raises about FBI competence and priorities should haunt us all. And let me tell you something else that should disturb you. While the FBI under Christopher Wray was ignoring pipe bomb evidence, they were investigating parents at school board meetings and monitoring Catholic churches. But they couldn't spare resources to follow up on actual explosive devices at political headquarters. The resource allocation tells you everything about their priorities. Politics over public safety. Director Patel showed me the evidence timeline. Home Depot purchase in October 2019, another purchase in November, December. The pattern continues month after month. Any competent investigator would have connected these dots within weeks of January 6th. But it took 4 years. 4 years during which Brian Cole Jr. apparently continued planning attacks. 4 years during which other potential threats went undetected. This isn't just about one case. This is about systematic failure of law enforcement to protect citizens from real threats while chasing political phantoms. Cole's confession is just the beginning. The real investigation starts now. Who influenced him online? What forums was he participating in? What videos was he watching? These digital breadcrumbs could lead to other potential attackers, other isolated individuals who might be following the same path Cole took from 2019 to 2021. But we lost 4 years. 4 years when those breadcrumbs could have been fresher. 4 years when other potential conspirators could have been identified. And here's what really keeps me up at night. If Brian Cole Jr. was planning attacks for 5 years, if he had fresh bomb-making materials in 2024, what was he waiting for? The 2024 election? The inauguration? Some other political milestone? We may never know because Director Patel's team caught him first, but think about how close we came to another attack. This case exposes everything wrong with politicized law enforcement, everything wrong with agencies that serve political masters instead of the American people. But it also shows what happens when competent leadership takes charge, when professionals focused on actual crimes replace political operatives focused on narratives. Brian Cole Jr. is behind bars where he belongs. The pipe bomber who terrorized Washington on January 6th is finally facing justice. But justice delayed is justice denied, and 4 years is too long for any American to wait for their government to protect them from terrorism. The arrest is just the beginning. The investigation continues. Every day it continues reminds us that competence matters, leadership matters, priorities matter. America deserves an FBI that protects Americans from real threats. We finally have that FBI again.